Hi, I'm Patty Donovan, and I am here at the Open Group Conference in Washington, D.C. It's our quarterly conference, and I'm sitting here with Dave, and we're trying something new. Instead of sending out highlights, daily highlights, to our members and our attendees, we're going to try something new, and I'm going to ask Dave, who has been in practically every session, Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, all the plenaries.
If you could actually just give me a highlight of what you took away on Monday first.
Of course, the theme of Monday was cybersecurity, right? And we had a number of great speakers. Of course, after our introduction by Alan, we had Joel Brenner, and I believe his book is America the Vulnerable.
It is, right.
And he really painted such a vivid picture of the threats that are facing everybody, you know, not just corporations, but even individuals as they travel overseas and leave their laptops in rooms and things like that. And you know, he talked about the need for greater vigilance. And one of the things I really took away from that was there's not only a technical dimension of this, which we've kind of known all along, but many of the threats were due to practices, right? And of course, that's very important to the Open Group as we look at both the technical aspects of security and the best practices and organizational behaviors around security.
Right.
That was, we had a spotlight on our service-oriented architecture group by Chris Harding. That was recorded, and I'm sure we're going to be putting that up on the web. We then had a very good presentation by Kristen Baldwin from the U.S. Office of Secretary of Defense in DoD, the Acquisition Technology and Logistics Department, which is in charge of the procurement policies for all of the DoD. And she talked about how they were looking at issues of cyber attack and particularly how they secured their supply chain, what security standards they wanted to have and practices they wanted to have among their vendors as they tried to, as the DoD needs to procure large amounts of stuff on very tight budgets, and how they're coming to increasingly rely on working in a government industry partnership for commercial, to acquire commercial off-the-shelf technology. That, I believe, let's see, the next one we had Dr. Ron Ross of NIST, and he talked about some of the information they'd gathered and some of the programs that their government, and NIST, of course, is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and they are kind of the arm of the U.S. government who deals with standards. Right. And they're looking at their cybersecurity standards. And again, he highlighted the fact that it's not just the technical standards, but also the practices. You know, I think he said that, you know, 80%, I probably got the percentage wrong, but some very large percentage of all the incursions were due to people not enforcing practices they already knew about.
Right.
And finally, of course, we wound that up. We kind of tied it all up with one of the Open Group's activities on, oh, I forgot one. We had the spotlight from the Security and Architecture Forum. And of course, you know, the Open Group has had you know, we have a strong history of architecture work. We have a rapidly growing work on security. And those two groups have come together to produce extensions or add-ons to TOGAF, new modules in TOGAF, to bake security practices right into the architecture, because the chair of that, the security group that's working on that said,
Jeff Besko.
Jeff Besko, right, has to, we have to bake security right into the architecture up front, because bolting it out at the end just never works. Right. So, and I believe we wound up Monday morning with a panel from our the Open Group's Open Trusted Technology Forum, which was a nice complement to what we'd heard earlier, because it really talks about the standards we are putting in place and the accreditation program we will be putting in place for organizations to develop best practices around securing their supply chain so they can be trusted technology partners to agencies like the DoD, but really for the entire commercial market.
Right. You know, I was actually surprised at the audience. It was a packed room.
Yep.
In fact, there were people standing up in the back.
Yep.
No one was coming and going.
Yeah.
People were, the whole morning,
Yeah.
I think, it was a good group of, and it all gelled together, and people really came up and said that they had a really good session. So.
Well, this, the thing that really stood out to me across the whole morning was how we kept hearing the same themes over and over again about people need to be aware of these vulnerabilities, that the issue, frankly, I took away was it's more about your best practices and behaviors than about your technical security. While that's still important, it only works if you use it. And so, and then of course, winding that up with the fact that the Open Group is working on exactly those areas. We're talking about compliance and security. We're talking about supply chain trust in OTTF. We've honed in really on that critical business issue. So it really, I thought, this really did highlight the fact that, the Open Group members have really honed in on what are the critical issues facing us in cybersecurity.
The morning was great.
Yep.
I think everyone went away feeling really good about
Absolutely.
it. Scared, but feeling really good about it.
Aware.
Aware, right. So what sessions did you attend in the afternoon?
So there were two sessions I took part in directly in the afternoon, and one that I just want to highlight. The first one was by Chris Armstrong from the Armstrong Process Group on using TOGAF 9 to deliver DODAF 2 capabilities. And, the US DoD mandates the use of DODAF in defense architectures. And of course, we advocate for TOGAF as, the world-leading architecture development methodology. And so it's very desirable. Now, the good thing is that TOGAF is a lot about methodology, and DODAF is a lot about artifacts. And so a good thing to do is to develop a mapping between these two so that you can use the TOGAF methodology to produce the DODAF artifacts so that people doing defense architectures, or in fact mixed use architectures, because COTS is more important these days, can use TOGAF and still produce a compliant architecture.
Actually, Chris with Armstrong Process Group, he did 2 webinars around the same theme, which are recorded and they're available on our web. And through the bookstore. He also did a podcast, which became blog. And and he'll also be doing one after to tie it all together.
Well, let's not forget that we live streamed that one as well. So that will also be going up, and we'll make sure that they're all cataloged so people can
and that's something new that we're doing, and I think we're getting some good feedback on it.
It's a good experiment right now. We started in Cannes. We've grown it here. I think we're going to continue to explore how that helps members who just couldn't make the meeting get engaged.
Right, that's great.
Yep. Good.
There was another live stream session in the afternoon with
Identity Workshop,
Identity Man, and they had this great set of cartoons that kind of talked about. It's such a hard topic to describe, but these cartoons were great. It was
Yeah, the cartoons were about developing an identity ecosystem, and identity is really one of the core problems for internet security today. How do I know you are who you say you are? And these really did. We saw them all. Again, we live streamed that, and we're going to be releasing those. We've released the first one. We're going to be releasing one every Tuesday, right? Yeah.
For the next 5 weeks. And which is good about that, because they're nice chapters, they're chunks that people can consume and walk away with, and then we can send them all out all together. So that's great.
Well, I won't give any of the details away because it's a really good story. So I'd urge everyone to go and watch every Tuesday. Come back every Tuesday to see the next episode.
Okay.
The other one I want to mention, I was only in briefly, but the Real-Time and Embedded Systems Forum is attacking another dimension of this security aspect, and it's a new project just getting started called DIOS, and it's dependability engineering for open systems, and it's about how we develop open systems so you can architect and design dependability in from the architecture phase through development and all the way through the operational phase. Brought to us by Sony Research, and they're in the formative stages trying to get members together to actually work on this. So if people are interested in that dependability aspect of security, I'd urge them to take a look at that.
Right. I also want to mention that we've got several sponsors for our conference here in DC, which is one's Build the Vision and Biz Design, so we want to thank them. We also want to thank our exhibitors, and
Right.
you'll learn more about them. You can go to our website, you can go to the blog.